Hey, this is Josh for the Camera Project. Today we're in studio doing a sort of self-photo shoot because no one likes me enough to help me. We're doing it with the help of this, the new Datacolor LightColor Meter. And if you're into photography, you've heard of light meters. There's the light meter built into your camera. That's a reflective meter. And what that does is it captures the light reflecting off your subject. The problem with those is it tries to make everything gray. So no matter if it's a white wall like the one behind me or a black wall, it basically thinks, okay, I have to make this gray. And obviously that's not always right. But this is an incident color meter, which means instead of capturing light reflecting from something and trying to make it gray, it captures the light falling onto this dome here. Now, the cool thing about this one is that it's both a light meter, a color meter, and it works with flash and ambient. You could use it in cinema mode, which has shutter angle or shutter speed, or you could use it to do what we're doing today, which is a photo shoot. Now, to simulate sort of the video usage, I'm going to use a combination of lights. So I have an Tamron 300C right over there, which is a constant or video light. And I have a Westcott FJ400 right in front of me over here. That's going to be my key light, and then we'll have some fun with this as our backlight or rim light or whatever we decide to do with it. But we're going to learn how using this Bluetooth-enabled light and color meter that shows us all of our settings on our phone, we'll be able to dial everything in. Now, the cool thing about it working on our phone is in the past, with other light meters, you're constantly kind of going back and forth and putting something in front of your talent's face. With this one, you could throw it on a stand and put it right next to your talent, or this has this magnetic handle here. It also has a magnetic sort of alligator clip that you could clip onto someone's shirt or something like that. And so it's very flexible. The other really cool thing about it is that you could use multiple meters in sort of measuring multiple lights on set, or use it to do something like even out a green screen. So have one on the left side of the screen, one on the right side of the screen, and make sure you're evenly lit throughout. All right, so let's explain my setup. I've got my video camera over here, I've got my stills camera here, and I've got a remote shutter so that I can take the picture without being behind the camera. Now I have my phone recording to the laptop, so you guys can see it. Unfortunately, it's not in my hand, but I can see my laptop. Let's see what I get. I plugged in my FJ400, or I turned it on, I should say. It's battery power. But I didn't change the settings. So let's just see what it's going to give me. Ideally, I'm going for an aperture of, say, f8. I don't have any real need for shallow depth of field here. It's just a white background behind me. So I don't, want beautiful bokeh or anything like that, and I might as well have my whole head in focus. Now, I set my camera settings in the meter software, and by that I mean I set my ISO to 100, my camera's base ISO, and I set my shutter speed to 1/250th, which is my sync speed to cut out as much of this ambient light as possible so that this is doing the lighting. If I point this toward the light from where it's hitting me, and I fire, well, I could see, because I'm tethering, that one, the image is way too dark, but I could also see that the light meter agrees with that. It's telling me to properly expose this. I would need an exposure of 1.6. This is an f2.8 lens, so what does that mean? I can't shoot at 1.61, but I don't want to shoot at 1.6. So all I need to do is turn up my flash power. So I'm going to roughly count stops, and I'm going to do the same exercise again, and hopefully I'll be reading closer to an f8 at this point. And I counted stops properly because it's telling me exactly an f8. So I have what should be very good exposure at this point. Of course, I could dial into taste. Okay, quick aside here. I was going through my pictures and, well, actually I realized later in the shoot, but you'll notice that my shutter speed on my actual image here is 1/50th of a second. So I actually had my camera settings wrong, even though I meant to set it at 1/250th. Because of that, you'll notice my images are a hair overexposed. But not too big of a deal because there wasn't a ton of ambient light in the room. I just thought I'd point it out.
You had one job. Just the one.
I've got my lighting set up now. So let's just fire some frames off. My modeling looking self here. All right, so let's bring in another light and change up the setup just a little bit, and we'll bring in our Amaran 300C. Okay, so I'm back. I have the Amaran 300C on. It's acting as kind of a rim light for me, and I want to do two things with it. One is to measure the exposure, of course, but two is to also, well, I need to match the color temperature because this is a continuous light and this is a strobe. And inherently, they may not have the same color temperature. Luckily, this one lets me adjust it. So I'm going to point it at the light. I have the dome pressed in, which allows me to more specifically measure a single light source. I'm trying not to look at it. Okay, so now with my shutter speed of my camera set to a 50th, I told the meter that my shutter speed on the camera is a 50th, and now you can see I'm getting a 6.3, which is just a little bit below my f8. So let's see how that all comes together. Now, right now, I still have the strobe off. So here's a test frame just so you can see what this light is doing. Let's just fire it off with the strobe, see how it's looking. And it's nice. But we forgot to do something. We forgot to check our color temperature. And I could see in the photo that it looks a bit warmer than the strobe does. So let's adjust for that. So now I have my meter looking at the color temperature, and I could see it's 4700. Now, let's do a quick test on the strobe. I could see I'm getting a 5390 on the strobe, and that means I need to make it cooler. So you might be thinking, why not just look at the color temperature it says on the back of the light? But it's not always accurate. I found that, yes, they'll be within a couple hundred of the right measurement, but again, it's not always perfect. So right now, I changed the ambient. Let's see what we get. Okay, I have 5440 on my ambient, which is almost exactly the same as my 5380 or whatever I said the strobe was. So I'm very close at this point. Now let's take a few more frames. Perfect. Another setup done. Let's change the whole thing up and do something totally different. All right, we're back. And what did I change? Well, basically, I took my key light, the FJ400, I moved it way off to the side, so hopefully it's going to give me a much darker background. Let's see what it's reading in terms of exposure because the distance to me did change, so let's just see what it's saying on my meter. Okay, so it gives me a reading of 12.7, which means essentially the light got closer to me and I need to turn the power down. And now I've got f8. Okay, so I knew that I wanted a much darker background here. So essentially I put the light to the side and I'm gonna face it. I'm gonna make this more of a pensive look. Creepy? I don't know. We're gonna do one more and we're gonna bring our video light back in. Okay, so I've got the spotlight attachment on the Amaran. I've changed the color to give us a cool colored backdrop. Let's meter it. So I'm gonna put the light on a light stand this time. If I look at what I'm measuring, it's measuring in an aperture of 1.1, which tells me I'm probably not gonna see it. It's too dark. If I look at my power on the light, well, I've got room to move. So luckily, I can crank that up. It's measuring at an f2.2 or so, f2.0. It's hard for me to see from here. If I had my phone in my hand, it would be perfect. But I'm gonna try bringing the light a little bit closer to see if I could get a little more power out of it. Now this isn't totally accurate because my stand isn't exactly where it's hitting the backdrop, but it's getting me close. I'm at a 2.5. Yeah, so as you saw, we did 3 or 4 quick lighting setups. I lost count. But yeah, we were able to do that all really quickly using the Datacolor LightColor Meter. And it was able to just take the guesswork out and it made it so much quicker, so much easier, not guessing at our exposure, not wondering if our exposure was right, but knowing that it was right, knowing that our colors matched. And especially when you're using strobe, your camera's meter can't measure for that, but this can. So I really enjoyed using it. And if you want to find out more, you'll see some links below. And subscribe. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.